All right, we are ready. Good evening, everyone. I call this regular meeting of the Victoria City Council to order. It's our custom to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda tonight is announcements. Our next budget workshop will be held Monday, August 23rd at 5 p.m. Council will discuss the 2022 maximum tax levy. There will also be a regular workshop on Monday, August 9th at 5 p.m. to discuss the predatory offender ordinance and the facility space need recommendations. All meetings of the City Council are open to the public and held in the council chambers at City Hall unless otherwise noted. We encourage anyone who wants to attend our council meetings in person to contact our city clerk in advance so we can ensure physical distancing can be maintained. In other announcements, don't forget about our farmers market this summer. If you have not been, it's fabulous. In partnership with the Southwest Metro Chamber of Commerce and Enki Brewing, the city is hosting a weekly farmers market through September on Thursdays from 3 to 6 in the Enki Brewing parking lot. Please come out and support our local farmers and artisans. Night to Unite, which is formerly known as National Night Out, will be taking place this year the evening of Tuesday, August 3rd. This is an annual event that helps neighbors get to know each other and builds partnerships between public safety, the city, and our community. We encourage neighbors to register their parties on the city's website. And the first 20 parties or so will be assured a visit from the fire department or the sheriff's department. Please follow and like social media channels or check out our website for more information on these and other events. There are no proclamations this evening, so we're going to move on to the open forum. This is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda or in application form to come before the council at a future date. We have two presenters for items this evening that have registered. The first one is the representatives from the Twin Cities Walleyes Unlimited. Gentlemen, please approach the podium for your presentation. And we have a spokesperson, so please, for the record, please tell us who you are.
My name is Dale Minders. I'm the current president of Twin Cities Walleyes Unlimited, and thanks for having us here. So a little bit about Twin Cities Walleyes. We're a nonprofit here in the cities, with our mission is to connect, educate, and give. So we connect with anglers that have a passion for fishing, provide education so we become better fishermen and anglers, and then give back to our community. So part of that giving back is why we're here today. So last summer, our Vice President Luther Overholt talked to Anna Brown at the Minnehaha Creek Watershed about potential projects that we could kind of get in on. And she talked about the Wasserman Lake Fishing Pier project. So we talked about it as the board, and we thought that would be a great thing that we could try to do to raise some money to help support that. So part of our monthly meetings, we get together from September to May, and we do raffles and things like that to collect money to do some of the charity stuff that we do. And we decided on to raise $1,000 for that fishing pier. So we did that over a challenging year where we had several meetings that were canceled, but we were still able to raise the $1,000, and we're here to present that to you tonight. So I also want to definitely thank Ann and Laura. Laura's not here, right? So for all their cooperation and helping us move this forward as well. So yeah, we're here to donate the $1,000 check, and I'll just give that to you, Deb.
Actually, they don't let me touch money.
Okay.
I would give it to Dana. And we like that policy here. But I will take a walleye sandwich if you have one of those in your house.
They do have a large check, but it's really not a check, so I think you can touch that.
I can touch that one, yes. Yes, ceremonial checks, okay.
Yeah. And
yes.
I do want to also say we did order a plaque for their donation that will be put onto the fishing pier after the donation is received this evening. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We are so grateful for that donation.
So if we could have a quick picture, maybe.
Yes,
with you, all of
absolutely.
you, or?
Yeah, I would
Yes.
go this way.
We'll come around, we had to go around, do all the way around. Oh, we can stay back here, okay. Can you see us? Or should we come out? I think we should come out.
Yeah.
Don't let me have one, because they let me boss people around.
On three, 1, 2, 3, and one more for me. All right, thank you.
But I don't know if that would be you or not. You know, it's a county road, that's why I hate Bavaria. So every day they can drop this.
Not my camera. You're too wide. You're too wide. Yeah, we're too wide.
Our photographer's failing.
Not my camera. Thank you.
We'll be calling you for some fishing, programs.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Is there walleye in that lake? Because that's probably my most favorite fish. Thank you.
Oh, delicious sandwich.
Now you're gonna get everybody hungry.
What's that?
Thank you to that fine group of folks. Next on our open forum, we have County Commissioners Matt Udermann and Tom Workman, and I see Commissioner Udermann here, but I do not see Commissioner Workman. Are you carrying the load for both of them?
Commissioner Workman, actually, I called into a Lions meeting. I think he's accepting an award tonight. I don't know what it is yet, but I think he was
Wow.
going to try and text. If I may hand these out.
Please, please.
Commissioner, I can do it.
So yes, I am your commissioner, one of them. Commissioner Workman's been here a lot longer. He has everything north of Highway 5. I pretty much have everything south of Highway 5. And one of the promises I made through the campaign cycle is that I'd come formally see you guys twice a year. And so I think it's good. I think it's the first time ever that we've had a mid-year highlight document to share with you. I think that'll only get better over time. But we definitely have informal conversations, and we get a chance to see you guys out in the public and some formal emails and other things. But it's good to highlight some of the things that we have going on. And the first highlight is partnership. I think there's been a lot of partnership in areas that sometimes we forget. One of those is partnership with the 10 and 11 corridor, with trying to get that plan ready to go. We know that that's going to boom and be upon us before we even know it. And so there was partnership with there. I had an opportunity to participate in the Victoria Citizens Academy to represent the county as well. Thank you for making the exception for not being a Victoria resident. But it was great. I don't know how many weeks it was.
6 weeks, 5 weeks.
5 or 6 weeks, and it was digital, so it was difficult for everybody to do so, but had a chance to hear from every element of the city firsthand, including cameras that are in the sewer system, and got a chance to see that, the fire department, all these other things as well. Then also had to do a ride-along with the sheriff deputy that's assigned to Victoria, Amanda. I got a chance to do a ride-along with her and see the goings-on within our community. And I try and be in Victoria as much as I can. We've seen each other at farmers markets. We've seen each other at car shows, restaurants, bars, grills, everything of the sort. So number one is partnership. I want to continue to build upon that. And if there's anything that you need from us, let us know, and hopefully it's not a let us know thing. Maybe we're at this table together in partnership. The second thing is it's no surprise that we got a chunk of the ARP dollars. So the President Biden had the $1.9 trillion package. Carver County gets $20.5 million of those dollars, in addition to dollars that were received through the CARES Act and whatnot. And we are, through this month, next month, and beyond, looking as to what are the best places to spend those dollars. And it wouldn't be beyond belief to take some of the county dollars and maybe match those against city dollars. So if there's projects that work within the confines of what the government says we can do with those, we know that Victoria is growing, we know that there's needs there, and we know that there's areas that were hammered through the pandemic that we can accelerate. And so those are some areas. And then finally, if there's any questions, I think this is a great chance. We get to meet again informally in a lot of different ways. But if there's any other questions that we have, we had a good dialogue with some folks with the city of Chaska last week, and then we'll be in front of District 112 to share some of the mid-year highlights. But if you have any questions now as a total council, I know that through open meeting laws and whatnot, we can't meet separately and as a group. This is one of the few opportunities that we have a chance to answer and have those dialogue.
Terrific, thank you, Commissioner Udermann. We appreciate you being here. Council, questions, comments for Commissioner Udermann?
I saw your email on Sunday for the affordable housing. Did you make it? I couldn't go.
I did. There's a group called settled.org that invited me to come out, and what they're looking at is utilizing land that religious organizations have as part of their mission and making that land available, because we know anytime you're talking about anything that's less than market rate housing, the biggest challenge is oftentimes siting. And so just to get curious for what's working for other areas, them taking the lead. So I had a chance to go out there and look at their complex. It's very church-led, which brings resistance and support from different factions. But they partnered with the church, and they occupy a Kmart, an abandoned Kmart, and they utilize all this square footage to help make homes and make those available. But the crux of it is to put it on land that's owned by a not-for-profit or a church organization to overcome that siting issue.
Where was it?
This one is in Maple, I get it mixed up, Maplewood or Maple Grove. I think it was Maplewood.
Okay.
In Ramsey, it was in Ramsey County, just across from St. Paul. And I think they mentioned 5 to 10 partnership churches that are engaging with them. I went out of curiosity. I think that's always the conversation.
I saw a picture. I thought it was tiny houses.
Yep, they do. They built 5 tiny houses. They let us walk through them. They do entertain those. I'll get you the information afterwards. And it's really interesting when you think about it, because land costs is sometimes an inhibitor. About 25% of the build cost of a house is all of the things that you have to do legally to do so. And then we also know that materials are skyrocketing right now. So when I talk about it, I talk about where does a first-time school teacher in Carver County live? District 112, a first-time school teacher makes $42,000 a year. And if you take that 30% formula as what they can afford for housing, you're in that $800 to $1,600 a month range. That first-time school teacher that doesn't want to live with mom and dad or with a roommate, where do they live? And we have some of that stock, but it's all occupied and very little turnover because people stay camped out there. So as we scratch our head and say, we have this much of a challenge of doing that. Challenges in other areas are a lot larger, but if we can't do it in Carver County, where can we do it? Again, back to that first-time school teacher, that first-time cop, the service worker, the person that plows our roads. They're not making an income that allows them to buy $450,000 houses.
Right, I understand. On that $20.5 million that the county is getting, have you decided how it's going to be allocated? And are we to expect a certain amount, or is there something we have to do?
Yeah, so I think the easy answer is it's in discussion, 4 to 5 different board members, 5 different ideas. Victoria got their own chunk of money, so I'm not exactly sure how you're intending to go through that process, but there's been discussions as to how much money do you spend to give money away. The reality is when you get a chunk of change like that, where our organizations are not equipped to give those sizable dollars away in a meaningful way that's equitable. I think the second thing is what do you do to take care of your rainy day fund? You know, what does it look like? We thought we were going to be off of a financial cliff a year ago, and now we're sitting okay, right? So, but we don't know what those hiccups will be in the next, because you have about 6 years to spend it.
Okay.
I think the third bucket is how do you handle internal infrastructure? So you guys built a great, beautiful dais here. There's some things when people are working from home, those infrastructure type issues for your staff. And then I believe the lion's share of the rest of the money is how do you get it out in the community and work on things that are oftentimes those someday funds. Housing is one of those areas that it's like we can never really get to it because there's never the budget for it.
Right.
And I don't think this community has an appetite to increase a levy in a substantial way, or even in a minimal way for that instance. And so it's like, how do you use these one-time dollars to make an impact longer term? Specific projects may include housing, they may include accelerating infrastructure. We know that we've put about 7 to 8 years worth of life on a 1 mile of a trail in a short period of time because all the users that's going on. Hennepin County says the same thing. Three Rivers Park District, we're not experiencing anything differently. There's just a lot of usage. Well, that means that you're wearing down those trails a lot faster than what you had planned for from a replacement standpoint. So that's kind of where our mind is going. Broadband is another thing. 11% of Carver County does not have high-speed internet access. And some of that will be resolved by the growth happening close to the cities, but the urban or the rural areas, a lot of people are working from home or want to work from home but can't because they don't have mobile broadband or fiber or something like that. So those are some of the areas that we're looking at, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper in the next couple months.
Okay, good.
Council, anything else for Commissioner Udermann?
Where are we at? Where's the county on 82nd Street and County Road 18?
I'm glad you asked because I was going to end with that. You never ask the question and walk away. But what's encouraging is this 212, the first chunk by Fleet Farm was fully funded. It actually came in about $11 million underneath engineer bid. And why does that matter? Because Lyndon and his team were able to get that $11 million applied to the next chunk of 212. So 212 4-lane as far west as you want to go is funded now. What does that mean? That means because that's funded, now we can start focusing more energy on Highway 5. And whenever you talk about Highway 5, you have to talk about 82nd Street. So, I mean, everybody in the room knows this, but 82nd Street has been an orphan. It's been a little area that nobody's really has the funding for. Half of it's the Arboretum. They're not going to spend money on that road. 3/4 of it is Chaska. They're not ready to develop it until 2040, 2045. So the ones that tend to be, to realize the greatest benefit are only 1/4 of half of the road or 1/8 of the road, which is Victoria, and you guys don't have the budget to do that road. And so we're encouraged that Bo and Nash sponsored it at the House level and Coleman sponsored it at the Senate level, that there might be that last $10 million to get 82nd Street done. For two things. One, it's going to be our major collector, I guess, or where roads can go or people can go and get it funded through that. But it's also a relief valve as you start talking about Highway 5. And I think until this year, you haven't never even heard when we're going to put the shovel in the ground to address Highway 5. The shovel will go on the ground as soon as 2025. But if you only have Highway 5 and you shut it down and you don't give people a chance to get downtown, that's why 82nd Street is so critical. So we have half the funding. We're hoping the other half comes through the state next year in a bonding bill. And there's other mechanisms as well. So probably in the next 12 months, we'll know more if that state funding is going to come through.
Well, where did it end up in the omnibus bills? Did it even make it out of committee with those senators and with the senators? I know it was bipartisan in the Senate and Republican led in the House, but I'm curious to wonder where it landed.
Yeah, I think
because
that might be a Coleman Nash Bow question. I know it didn't get funded for that. So
I mean, it's an afterthought for everybody else except for people in Victoria, right? I mean, this is a straight shot to the high school.
Yep.
This is a straight shot to this is for Victoria. It's the number one priority in my opinion. So, I mean, this is the press release for the community that is slated to be the county's largest city.
Yep.
So for us, that road is important, and to work with our communities, we're happy to work with them, but they need to understand that road for us is our number one priority, and we want to be able to get it completed sooner than when I'm 65. So, I mean,
How many years do we have?
that's 2045. And so, you know, I'd like to see it within the next 7 to 8 years.
Wow.
So, you know, if we're going to do it, we need it because in 7 to 8 years. Oh, well, I doubt that. But in terms of start to finish, unless people.
Are you talking about 5 or
82nd Street.
82nd Street. So.
So I can't speak to those timelines. I can't speak to shovel in the ground is planned for 2025. And that was based even before we knew that second chunk of 212. And so with all the pieces that move, and we've got a maestro at the helm with Lyndon.
We do.
He's been able to bring a lot of money to this county. And then the 1/2 cent sales tax has also been. So I would expect to see it sooner than initial plans. But I take your voice and I hear it. And I think that might even be a luxury for Chaska too to accelerate maybe some development, because 2040 was when the planned development was with 82nd Street being a piece of that. So
Terrific.
cool. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. It's always a pleasure.
Yep, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Mr. Melky can come to the podium. I have wants to speak about the trails.
Is that Bob Moore?
Oh, I'm sorry, Bob. Yes. I was not reading your handwriting. Mr. Moeller, please. come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please, and then continue with your comments.
My name is Bob Moeller, and I live in Chaska. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the Eastern Carver County Linking Trail Committee. And several years ago, probably before any of you might have been on the council, I came and presented the concept of linking the regional trails and the connecting trails between Victoria and Chaska and Chanhassen, because these regional trails that come out from Hopkins came out one to Victoria and one to Chaska, but there was no way for the interlink between our two towns. And so at the time, Mayor Hirschberger Thune and Monkey and I got together and we talked, and we decided that we should put together a team to work on this. So very quickly, the team consists of the head of parks for Chanhassen, here in Victoria, Chaska, Carver County, and it's been an effort to blend the projects, get money for the projects, and build a linking trail committee for the health of our residents, for the businesses and all the businesses that will be drawn by getting people riding out on their bikes on a Saturday or Sunday or in the evening to buy ice cream and hamburgers across the street, and generally to provide a good environment. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the trail project on Bavaria Road, on the eastern side of the road, because I think that our committee believes that's the safest place for that trail to be, not having people crossing back and forth across the trail, across the road rather. And so I really have two messages. One, I urge you to make choices about the safety as you're putting together your thinking on the trails. Secondly, to look for the long term in terms of how we can connect the wonderful city you've got, the beautiful ice cream store downstairs, and all the benefits that connect to having a linking trail committee or linking trail between Chaska, Victoria, Hopkins, and Minneapolis. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's good for our businesses and our citizens, and I encourage you to plow on and move on with good long-term decision-making and put the trail in on the east side of the road. So
Thank
with
you.
that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Council, any questions for Mr. Mueller? Terrific. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for
Thank you.
inviting me.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council this evening? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please.
Rick Adams. I live on 80th Street in Victoria. I'd like to have it on the east side of the road too. And if it has to be on the west side, that's on my side. I don't know if there's going to be a fence put up, a berm. I don't know what the project is all going to be. And I'd like to see the road speed limit drop down. It's 45 miles an hour. You can come by my house and watch people drive through. It's busy, very busy. And yeah, east side of the road's great for me.
All right.
That's all I need to know.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Is there anyone else that would like to address the council tonight? Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. There should be, oh yeah. Yeah, adopt the final agenda. Council, is there a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Motion to adopt final agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine administrative and don't require deliberation or are housekeeping items required by law. Consent agenda items are approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Hardy, does staff wish to pull any consent items for a separate discussion this evening?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council, or are there anyone here who wishes to pull anything from the consent agenda? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, council, may I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we're up to our regular agenda. The first item, 6.1, is a discussion on appointing a representative to the Department of Corrections Predatory Offenders Statutory Framework Working Group. Presenting on that this evening is Ms. Hardy.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I do not have a presentation for you this evening, but in your background reports, there was a letter that we received from the Department of Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell, and he is seeking a representative from the City of Victoria to serve on a newly created Predatory Offender Statutory Framework Working Group. This working group was created by the legislature, and they are tasked with assessing the statutory framework for predatory offenses and providing a written report and findings back to the legislature by January 15th of next year, 2022. If anybody is interested in more information for the public's benefit that may be listening to us this evening at home or who are with us here this evening in chambers, the letter is attached and has more detailed information about that working group. But in that letter, Commissioner Schnell is delegating one of those appointments to the City of Victoria, and council at our January, wow, we're going backwards. At our last meeting, July 19th, during our special meeting, there were 4 members of council who expressed interest in potentially serving on this committee. Since that time, you've also received a number of letters of recommendation for community members, specifically Sherry Schultz, who was presenting that evening as a member of the Keep Victoria Kids Safe Committee. And there was one letter of support that was sent in for Councilmember Black to serve on that committee. So with that, council, for your consideration this evening is an appointment to that working group, and I will let council discuss.
Thank you, Ms. Hardy. Council, thoughts?
My thought is,
Councilmember Black.
yes, my thought is that I would advocate for Sherry Schultz to do this. Not only did the sheriff recommend it, so did our state senator, and plus the 10 letters that we received. And she did an excellent job in presentation. She has a huge network of people helping her, and I think she would best suit the position.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
We have a motion to appoint Ms. Sherry Schultz to the working group. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The only thing that I would add is that we ask Ms. Schultz to present to, work out a schedule with her, if staff could work out a schedule with her to bring some information back to the council from time to time as they go through their process as a working group.
To keep us updated, yeah.
Mayor, members of council, I'd be happy to do that, and I will be happy to reach out to Ms. Schultz to let her know about the appointment. And for for everybody's benefit, I did have a conversation with her, and this is something that she's interested. I should have added that, and would make the time commitment to serve as an active member of that working group. I will close the loop with her.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And she, again, comes highly qualified to represent our opinion on this matter. So thank you to Ms. Schultz. If you are watching, we appreciate your volunteerism on this matter. Moving on, item 6.2 is consideration of the Madeleine Trail Addition Final Plat and Rezoning. Presenting this evening is our Community and Economic Development Director, Marty Dahl, who took a lot of Barb's earlier this evening. We're going to be nice to you from now
Yes,
on.
you really,
I can take it.
you really got teased.
You've been terrific about it. Mr. Dahl, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Yes, before you this evening is an application for a final plat, a final comp plan amendment, and rezoning of the Madeleine Trail development by Pulte Homes. We do have Dean Lauder with Pulte and Ryan Bloom with Westwood, who are in the audience as well, if you have any questions once staff concludes their presentation. So just a little background on this development. So back in February, during the sketch plat process, a neighborhood meeting was held where the residents within 350 feet of the development parcel were invited to provide feedback. That feedback was provided to both the Planning Commission and City Council in March when the sketch plat was reviewed, and feedback was provided to the developers. The developers took that feedback and came back with a preliminary plat application in May. On May 4th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and recommended approval of that preliminary plat on a 7-0 vote. And on May 10th, the City Council approved the preliminary plat on a 5-0 vote. On May 28th, and as was directed by Council on the 10th, the Met Council did approve the comp plan amendment. So that is in your packet, that approval letter, and is before you this evening. And then most recently on July 20th, the Planning Commission reviewed the final plat and recommended approval on a 6-0 vote. So the development before you is proposed as a planned unit development with R1 underlying zoning. That's the city's single-family zoning district as underlying zoning. It is proposed for 49 single-family lots on approximately 20 acres, 13.6 of them being developable. And part of the Planning Commission's charge when reviewing final plat is to review conditions and consistency with preliminary plat, and both staff and the Planning Commission do believe that the final plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plat, and conditions have either been addressed or are to be conditioned with final plat. So as was also included in your background packet, this is the final plat, the layout of the proposed development, and we can come back to this slide if there are questions at the end. As I noted, this property does require a comprehensive plan amendment as it had been guided for public institutional. It is proposed to be re-guided to low-density residential, which in our comp plan is a property that yields 2.25 to 6 units per acre. With this proposal, it would yield 3.61 net units per acre, so would be consistent with that comprehensive plan designation. As I noted, the Met Council did approve the comp plan amendment, and so before you this evening would just be to provide final city approval of that amendment. The site is also currently zoned agricultural, so it would also require rezoning in order to be developed. The rezoning proposed is to planned unit development with R1 single-family underlying zoning, and the proposed rezoning ordinance was included in your background packet. This property, the development is proposed to, again, have 49 single-family homes with a minimum lot area of 8,665 square feet, a minimum lot width of 68 feet, a minimum lot depth of 130 feet, a 9-foot each side yard setback with a 15-foot corner yard setback, 30-foot rear and front yard setbacks, as well as a maximum impervious surface per lot of 5,000 square feet. And of note, there is currently no plans for a homeowners association within this development. As we discussed during preliminary plat, there is some modest elevation change that's being proposed along both 78th Street and Cochia Lane, those being collector roads. So you can see with those cross-section graphics essentially what that would look like from a topography standpoint. The developer is proposing to include a 25-foot landscape buffer in the rear of double-fronted lots and a 15-foot buffer on the side of triple-fronted lots, and adhering to all of the planting requirements in the buffer. So as you can see from the landscape plan that is included on your screen, there is a plan for a very heavy buffer along both of those roadways. This property requires 2.287 acres of usable parkland for the city's parkland dedication requirements. There is a trail credit being provided for trail being constructed along 78th Street and Cochia Lane of approximately $51,000, and that calculates out to a payment of parkland dedication fee to the city of $189,075. One other item of discussion during the preliminary plat and was discussed during the last planning commission meeting, there was a question as to whether the intersection of Cochia Lane and 78th Street would warrant a four-way stop. That intersection currently does not warrant a four-way stop. Stop signs are being proposed as on Cochia, on both sides of Cochia, but staff has indicated that that's definitely an intersection that we'll continue to have an eye on as development likely continues to the south once Cochia Lane is extended all the way through, that there may be a warrant for a four-way stop at that intersection in the future. So the graphic in front of you now just kind of shows those stop sign locations in red as well as crosswalks in yellow. The blue lines are the internal sidewalks and the green lines are the trail that is being provided around the development. Another condition of preliminary plat and of final plat approval is the extension of Cochia Lane along the length of the property. There's an existing 30-foot right-of-way that runs along the property between the two properties, this property and the properties to the west. The applicant will be providing an additional 30 feet of right-of-way and intends to construct Cochia Lane as a collector to the property boundary. There are a few easements that are coming into play. So the Carver property, which is to the south of this development, one of the items of discussion during preliminary plat was a need for an easement to utilize the drain tile system that is in the Carver property. That easement has been secured. So the development will have easement and the city will have easement rights to be able to maintain that drain tile system if needed. There's also a easement on the east side of the property that's currently used for the Carver driveway. That easement will be retained to continue to provide access to the Carver property. And then lastly, the developers have also reached an easement agreement with the Carvers to construct one of their cul-de-sacs down into the Carver property, the one on the far east side of Obsidian Way. There are also two adjacent properties to the west that will have some potential impacts related to this development in the Cochia Lane construction. The city and the applicant are continuing to work with those property owners. In fact, city engineer Guerin and I met with them last week and talked through some of the issues, and we'll continue to work with them on their driveway connections and utility extensions to their properties. The development is subject to the rules and final approval of the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District as it relates to stormwater management. That also includes in their construction plans a restoration of the 1.2 acre on-site wetland that we discussed during preliminary plat. So with this development, as with all developments, there are city fees and charges that are applicable. The water availability charge for this property is $82,810. Sewer availability charge of $98,000. As we noted, a parkland dedication fee of $189.75 and an engineering escrow of $25,000. So cash fees and charges for this development from the developer would be $397,335. In addition, with all developments, the city will require a letter of credit for security for the entire development. And this development did not have any tree replacement or utility oversizing with it. So with that, as I mentioned, staff and the Planning Commission both recommend approval of this development with some conditions. Those conditions being addressing to the city's satisfaction all of the remaining items in the engineer's response memo and final approval of the construction plans, receiving final city approval of construction plans for the extension of Cochia Lane and constructing that as a collector roadway per those approved plans, entering into a development agreement and paying all applicable fees and providing the required securities. The final approvals from the Watershed District, including for the restoration of the on-site wetland, complying with the PUD district standards established in the ordinance that was in your background, complying with the city attorney's plat opinion, if creating an HOA, making sure that those HOA documents are submitted and approved, disclosure and recording of a letter of interest outlining all of the requirements of the PUD subdivision and other disclosures, complying with all of the city's sign ordinances for any entrance or monument sign, recording within 120 days of approval, and furnishing the city with a certified Mylar copy that evidences that recording. And so with that, Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff is recommending approval of the final plat for Madeleine Trail with those conditions as presented, approving the comprehensive plan amendment, approving rezoning from ag to PUD, and adopting a resolution for summary publication. And I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dahl. Council, questions, discussion?
It's at the top of my mind because the Bavaria East Side Trail is at the top of my mind. We don't have a trail going down Cochilla. And if we're going to connect, if we're trying to connect things, I'm just trying to think ahead. Where's is there a trail?
Yep, this green line on the screen in front of you here.
Yep.
On the east side of the west side of their property, east side of Cochilla.
Okay.
We trail from 78th down to the property line.
So thinking ahead, going into the future, the trail is on the other side, over across from Holy Family, farther down. Where would that connect? At what point?
Yeah, Commissioner Councilmember Gunderson, I'm just used to the Planning Commission, members of the council. So the trail currently is on the east side of Cochilla from 5 through Whispering Hills down to this point. So just based on the property available, it made sense to have it be on the east side through this development. It's likely that somewhere, if and when the property to the south, which has property that would be on both the east and west side of Cochilla, that some point at some intersection within that development is where it would switch back over to have a crosswalk over to the west side.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Gunderson, anything else? Council?
For the four-way stop at Cochilla and 78th, what is is it just strictly a traffic pattern criteria that would eventually make that a 4? And then I guess how often does that get looked at, or is because this could be, a traffic will be coming through there a lot more, we'll just pick a time?
You're going to see my head turn to Kara for that one.
Kara, welcome back. State your name, please.
Kara Guerin, city engineer. In response to your question, so the city has an adopted stop sign warrant policy, so we'll need to apply that policy in reviewing that intersection, but it'll be at our discretion to decide how frequently we need to review that. And I really think it's going to be a function of how quickly the neighborhood builds out, and then what happens to the south. Once that roadway is connected, we're going to see some pretty significant changes in traffic in the area, particularly with the high school, and then the potential improvements starting in 2025 on Highway 5. Mm-hmm. So between now and then, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes. So I think it's something we're going to want to look at pretty frequently.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mrs. Guerin. Council, other questions?
My only question would be, in the Planning Commission, there was a lot of discussion about HOA. After that discussion, has there been any change in the developer's opinion on if an HOA is needed? I guess my only thought is, so my neighborhood has an HOA. It's not one, right, that they plow, the road or our driveways or anything. But the one benefit is that I can really see is, especially for our roads, is one, garbage and recycling, right, for the whole neighborhood. You don't have, I lived in a neighborhood once before that we had 5 garbage trucks going through all the time, right? So I think, that would be a big benefit to those, but again, not, a requirement, obviously, but I could see it being nice for those reasons for the neighborhood.
Dean, going to take that for us?
Sure thing, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Dean Lauder, Pulte Homes, 7500 Flying Cloud Drive, Eden Prairie, Minnesota, 55344. Madam Mayor, to the council members' question regarding HOA, I did go back and talk with our operations services person about that. What it really comes down to is the fact that there's really no services being provided for maintenance of as far as snow removal, mowing. There's no amenity in the neighborhood that would be attended to by an HOA board. So I guess it's pretty rare actually that we create a neighborhood. That was another question that was asked by Planning Commission as to whether we create a neighborhood without an HOA, and it is kind of a rare thing. But this one kind of checks all those boxes where you don't have another governing board created, and it saves the property owners the additional costs of association dues. That's seen as a good trade-off, I guess, to the customers when they're shopping our homes. So I guess that would be a trade-off where they wouldn't be necessarily bidding garbage together. I agree with you, though. I mean, personally, I've lived in neighborhoods with HOAs that have provided those services, and it is nice to have that kind of group purchasing power. But I guess our philosophy is that's not enough to usually tip the scales into creating one.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions, comments? Great. With that, I will entertain a motion.
Do we want this all in one motion? Or do we want it separated?
Mr. Dahl, can we take this all in one motion?
Bob, thoughts on that?
You know, I think this is complicated enough. You got to break them out into each one. And again, the rezoning, I think there's a resolution for a summary publication that's got a different voting requirement. So if you don't mind, I think it'd be better to break them out.
Very good.
Okay, so it says to approve final plat for Madeleine Trail with conditions as presented. So should we just,
That's a motion?
with conditions?
I think it's
Okay,
That's,
approve the final plat because there will be a resolution with that one, I believe, right?
Yes.
right.
There, I've tried to put bullet points on the 4 different motions.
Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the final plat for Madeleine Trail with conditions as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I have another motion?
Motion to approve the comprehensive plan amendment.
There's a motion to approve the comprehensive plan amendment. Can I have a second?
Second,
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve rezoning from AG to PUD.
We have a motion to approve the rezoning from AG to PUD. Do I have a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And can I have the final motion, please?
adopt resolution for summary publication.
We have a motion to adopt a resolution for summary publication. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I think that's all of it. We are moving on to 6.3, which is an update on the Bavaria Trail East project. Presenting this evening is our Park and Rec Director, Ms. Monkey. Ms. Monkey, are you going to present from over there?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I will be providing an update on the Bavaria Trail. At the, I believe it was in July meeting, there was some discussion related to temporary and permanent easements needed for the project. And the actual work of the Bavaria Trail has been going on for a really long time, I think since I first got here. But formally, we began work on it in April of 2020 when the city contracted with Bolton and Mink to provide design services for that trail. They completed 60% design, 90% design, and then final design earlier this spring. And at that point in time, it was determined that we needed 3 temporary easements and 1 permanent easement from a resident at 8099 Bavaria Road. Staff had met with the neighbors on several occasions, and specifically with the property owner at 8099 Bavaria Road, who has expressed concerns really from the beginning about the safety and liability of his staff and customers that are crossing 3 driveways at that property. Also the speeds along Bavaria Road, drainage on his property, and also future turn lanes that the council or the county may be working on. This isn't showing up, is it? I do have a presentation here, but it's not showing up. One moment, please. There we go. So as part of the discussions with that property owner, ongoing for the last several months, we talked a lot about the easements and the easement requirements, the trail design itself, and at the end of June, there was an offer to purchase easements from the property owner for permanent easement and temporary easement for roughly about $22,000. As part of the back and forth negotiation with the property owner, they came forward with a request for an additional sewer connection from the Public Works property from the north. Also an extra hydrant, fire hydrant, and a water service line further into the property along the north property line, and then also a water service to the south property line as well. This diagram, I'm trying to show you where the additional requests are, and there is some history that I think is important to note. So the Public Works property is just to the north of this property, and the city actually purchased property for the Public Works facility from this property owner. As part of the purchase agreement, the city was required to provide a water service and also a sewer service to the property when that construction occurred. The city did provide water to the property line, and the property owner does have access to it. The sewer location is actually on the north side of the Public Works driveway, and it was decided at that time to not put the sewer service in because the property owner did not need it at the time, but it was also a cost-saving measure to keep the Public Works building or the Public Works project under budget at that point in time. And then when the property owner did need it, the city would be able to provide them with that service. Back in 2019, the property owner was notified that they were having a problem with their septic, on-site septic, and he did request the city, rather than coming in from the north, to provide a sewer service from the west side of Bavaria, where we do have a manhole, to provide the sewer service here because it was a lot closer to where he needed it. So back in, and I believe that I included the agreement, and I believe that was in 2019 or 20? 20. Did amend the purchase agreement that would fulfill the city's obligations to provide that sewer service to his property. The new request that came in, and I'm going to go back to my last slide, the last request that I had then was for, again, the city to provide that sewer connection to the north property line, to provide a water service extension and fire hydrant to the north property line, and then also a water service to the south property line. A property owner is not as concerned about providing the water service at this point in time, but the thought was on the sewer connection, and I'm going to go back to this, as would be required or would be a good idea now because of the trail potential going in And then at some point in time down the road, when that sewer connection is required, we wouldn't have to dig up the trail. At least that's the thought behind the request.
So is he wanting sewer connection at both ends or
Yes.
moving it?
Yes. So the bottom arrow of green is the approved sewer service that the city and the property owner agreed to.
Okay.
And as part of the changing of the purchase agreement and the approval process, that eliminated the need for the city to provide this sewer service here.
But now he wants it.
Yes. Yes, as well as a water service to this location. You know, and I can't foresee into the future, but I have no idea when the property would be developed. But those would be the things that a property owner would want to redevelop the property. But again, the city at this point has fulfilled all of its obligations with the amended purchase agreement that the city council approved back in 2019-20. So, city staff, with the help of Kara, we provided will provide a rough estimate of costs. Again, these are rough estimates and could change, could go higher or lower based on putting them into a bid package. But roughly the additional costs for those sewer and water services are, plus some engineering costs, would be roughly in that $103,000 to $110,000. At this time, these costs and these additional services are the only request of the property owner at this point in time, and would not ask the city for additional payment for easement acquisition.
Okay, so we wouldn't pay for the,
Correct, about 22,000 of roughly
okay.
for cost for easements.
Councilmember Black. Putting the trail in without doing this at this time, would it cost extra for him to add it in later? Is that why he's wanting it now? I mean, why does he want it now?
Certainly for development, future redevelopment of the property would be it now. And also the impact to his property that the trail
And what about the turn lanes? Is he thinking that they're going to put turn lanes at his business?
I think that at some point, that will only happen when that road is redeveloped. Kara, you may be able to speak to the county's mindset on something like that, but it would be, the county wouldn't just go in and install turn lanes into a private residence or a private business on a whim. It would require, like I said, I think the road to be redeveloped.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a quick add to that. There are no current plans to do any major improvements to Bavaria. So Bavaria was included in the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan, but the only identified need was the construction of the trail. So there isn't, in the next 10 years, as it stands today, any plans by the county to upgrade that road. If there were, they would do a corridor study and we'd go through the whole similar process to what we did on County Road 11, coming up with what the improvements would be needed with engagement with the public.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Karen.
I did have a question. Would the trail cause a,
Is this for Kara?
it may be. If we do the trail now rather and not do the connections, is that causing a problem to get the connection? Or is that why he wants it now? Why does he want it now?
So the south connection, the water service connection, I would anticipate that that would be installed with directional drilling methods, as we're going to do with the sewer line. So when we're dealing with the county road, we typically don't excavate the middle of the road. We bore the pipe underneath the road. So I don't anticipate that it would cost more. Certainly, you would need to extend that bored water line underneath the trail. So the length might be a little bit farther because you would need to get it through the easement area. But so just that additional length, if we had an easement in place for the trail, this water line would have to extend past that. For the northerly situations, if you didn't install those connections today, then you would have to excavate into the trail in order to make those connections. Because the nature of those connections you would do with open cut excavating. So you would have to dig through the trail and then patch the trail. It's not, we patch trails, that's something we do. Roads are the ones we really don't like to construct within, but certainly it would be added cost to the developer at the time. If they were gonna make that connection, they would have to restore the trail.
They would have to do it? Or
The
city?
developer.
Okay, so I understand why he would want that.
Thank you. Ann, anything further from you?
And I will certainly defer to Bob on this, but the council certainly may consider this request in a closed session. And I will certainly defer to Bob on the reasons.
Council, Minnesota statutes allows us to go to a closed meeting to consider offers or counter offers for the purchase of real property. So I'm looking for a motion on whether the council wishes to close the meeting and discuss the purchase of property at 8099 Bavaria Road for the trail easement. So is there a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For those of you with us here this evening or watching us at home, the meeting will now go into closed session in a room that's adjacent to the council chambers. Council, necessary staff, and the city attorney will meet in closed session and return to the chambers when finished to reopen our meeting and provide a summary of the closed session as required by law. While we're in closed session, our video will display a splash screen indicating we will return shortly. So we will now go into closed session. We're going to adjourn over to this large conference room over here. All right, thank you for your patience, everybody here in council chambers and at home. We need a motion to reopen the meeting. Council, is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now back in open session. For the public's benefit, after our closed session, there was a motion to reopen the meeting, and we will continue with our agenda this evening. Before moving on with the remainder of the agenda, I will summarize the closed meeting as required by law. We concluded our closed session, and to summarize, we understand that Bavaria Trail is an important trail connection for our community. Council has authorized staff to contact the property owner at 8099 Bavaria Road to make a counteroffer necessary for the easement. To make a counteroffer for the necessary easement. The council's counteroffer is meant to address the concerns raised by the property owner. Staff, are you clear on direction?
Mayor, members of the council, yes. Ann?
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much, council. There are no more regular items to come before us this evening, and we'll move on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vost, any reports from you?
I don't. Thank you, Mayor.
Ms. Hardy, anything from staff?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Each council members, any reports from council?
Just, we all got,
Councilmember Gunderson.
we all got an email from Tom Bright regarding
The lights?
LED lights and things like that. And it's not the only email that I've received or that I think we've received regarding streetlights. Is that something we can bring up or have come before us to talk about the city's streetlights?
Ms. Hardy?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Gunderson, thank you. Yes, we can certainly invite, we do have 2 electric companies that provide streetlights in our community. So Minnesota Valley Electric Company in a portion of our city and XL Energy in another portion of our city. Generally speaking, the city does own a handful of streetlights, but most of the streetlights in the city are owned by either of the 2 electric companies. The city has very limited control over the types of streetlights that they choose to put into the residential neighborhoods. We do have some looser specifications for desired looks. XL in this particular case has 2, in this neighborhood, I believe, has 2 different types of specifications that they put into neighborhoods. We can certainly provide council with additional information. If you think it would be helpful to invite the electric companies to come in and talk about that, that's certainly something that we could do. Although there's not a lot of control that the city can put on those types of infrastructure, I guess.
Would it do us any good to have such a riveting subject matter or presentation from the energy companies to explain to them that some of our residents are not happy with the current options?
Councilmember Gunderson, Mayor, members of the council, we have reached out to both of the electric companies, and we have expressed that we have seen an increase in residents, either complaints or questions about the aesthetics, and in some cases, how that light is being displayed down. So they are well aware of the concerns. They've been responsive to us. They've offered different options or have looked at within what they offer. And so they are well aware, and we did share Mr. Bright's concerns directly this last week with the company, and they are going to look at other options and get back to us. So we're well on that path right now, but we're certainly happy to report back to council if that's information that you would like to receive back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds good. If the emails tick up in terms of streetlights, then maybe it's worth having them come in. But I think if you're already working to an end, I think that's more than adequate.
Terrific. Thank you. Anything else, Councilmember Gunderson? Other council members, anything else?
I just have
Yes, Councilmember Black.
happy thing. Nautical Bowls is moving here in the old School of the Wise location.
What's the name of it?
Nautical Bowls. Nautical, N-A-U-T-I-C-A-L. They are expecting to be able to open mid-September or October 1st.
Well, terrific. We will be delighted to welcome them to the city of Victoria.
I've told a couple of my clients, and they go, "Oh, I love that place." So, another exciting addition to Victoria.
Welcome to Victoria.
Yes.
All right. Anything else? There are no more items to come before the body this evening, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned.